There's a moment in every person's life who feels different, where they start to realize that it's not just a phase. It's not something that will go away if they ignore it. It's not something they can fix by trying harder to fit in or by becoming more like everyone else. And that realization can be uncomfortable because it forces you to confront something deeper, something you may have been avoiding for a long time. Because being different isn't just about how you think or how you feel. It's about how your entire life unfolds. You start noticing patterns that don't match what you see around you. While others seem to follow a predictable path, yours feels unpredictable. While things come easily for others, you have to go through layers, delays, and unexpected turns. And at some point, you stop asking, "Why is this happening?" And you start wondering, "Why is this always happening to me?" That question carries weight, because it's not coming from frustration anymore. It's coming from awareness. And awareness is the beginning of everything. You begin to see that your life hasn't just been different. It's been intentional. The challenges weren't random. The timing wasn't accidental. The people who came and went weren't just coincidences. There's a pattern beneath all of it. And God's word confirms why. "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart." Jeremiah 1:5. And maybe that's why it's been so hard. Because the lesson wasn't meant to be obvious. It wasn't meant to be easy. It was meant to shape you, to build something in you that can't be created through comfort. Something that requires pressure, patience, and the kind of faith that only grows in the dark. And while others may not understand why your journey looks the way it does, that doesn't make it wrong. It makes it specific. And when something is specific, it means it's designed. Designed by God, designed with purpose, designed for a direction that doesn't look like the path everyone else is walking. And if you're starting to feel that maybe your life has been guided in ways you didn't notice before, you can quietly acknowledge it by saying, "Lord, there is a purpose in this." Because what you're about to see next is what most people miss when they start to wake up to this realization. And the more you start to recognize that there is a purpose behind your difference, the more something else begins to surface. A deeper question that most people try to avoid. Not, "Why am I different?" but, "What is this difference actually preparing me for?" Because once you accept that your life is not random, that God is actively writing your story, you can't stay in the same mindset anymore. You begin to look at everything differently. You begin to see that the things that isolated you were also the things that protected you, that the moments you felt rejected were actually moments God was redirecting you, that the times you felt like you didn't belong were often the exact moments you were being kept from something that didn't align with where He was leading you. And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love Him, who have been called according to His purpose. Romans 8:28. But in real time, it never feels that way. In real time, it feels confusing. It feels unfair. It feels like you're always the one going through something deeper, something heavier, something more complex than everyone else around you. And that can create frustration, even doubt. You start wondering if maybe you're doing something wrong, if maybe you're the problem, if maybe you just haven't figured life out yet. But what if that thought itself is the misunderstanding? Because being chosen, being set apart by God, doesn't feel like clarity at first. It feels like pressure. It feels like responsibility. It feels like being pulled in a direction you didn't consciously choose, but can't seem to escape. And that's where the real shift begins. Because once you stop trying to escape it and start observing it, patterns begin to reveal themselves. You start noticing that certain situations repeat until you respond differently, that certain lessons don't leave until they've fully shaped something within you. that certain doors don't open until you're ready, and God knows exactly when you're ready. And suddenly, what once felt random starts to feel like providence. What once felt like chaos starts to feel like structure. And what once felt like you were falling behind and starts to feel like God was preparing you ahead of time. And if you're beginning to sense that maybe your journey has been guiding you, even when you didn't understand it, you can quietly pray, "Lord, I see your hand in this." Because what you're about to uncover next is the part of this process that most people never reach. And this is the part most people don't want to face. Because once you start seeing the pattern, once you recognize that your life has been guided, shaped, and positioned with intention by God, you also have to confront something deeper. The weight of it. Because being different isn't just about feeling unique. It's about carrying something that others around you don't carry. And that can feel heavy. Not in a way that's always obvious, but in a way that shows up in your decisions, in your thoughts, in the way you process things. You feel more. You notice more. You question more. And while others can move through life without going deep, you can't. Something in you always goes further, always looks beneath the surface. And that's not accidental. That's God's design. Just as he did with Moses, kept in the desert for 40 years before the burning bush. With David, anointed in secret, tested in obscurity before the throne. With Joseph, thrown into a pit, sold into slavery, imprisoned unjustly, before the palace. The pattern of God has always been preparation before promotion. But those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint. Isaiah 40:31. I know. That kind of growth doesn't feel good in the moment. It feels like pressure. It feels like confusion. It feels like you're being forced into something you didn't choose. But what if you were chosen for it? What if this path, this difference, this way of experiencing life, was always part of something bigger that God ordained before you were born? Because once you start to consider that, everything shifts. The struggle becomes training. The isolation becomes protection. The confusion becomes development. And suddenly you're no longer asking, why is this happening to me? You start asking something different, something more powerful. Lord, what is this preparing me for? And if that question feels real to you, if it resonates somewhere deeper than logic, you can just quietly pray, I'm ready to understand, Lord. Because what comes next is where that question starts to get answered in a way that changes how you see everything moving forward. As you begin to see that every challenge was shaping you, you also start to notice something else. The moments when you felt the most isolated were actually the moments when your strength was being developed. God never wastes a season. Every moment you walked alone, He was building something in you that could only be forged in that specific fire. The relationships that didn't work out, the jobs that didn't fit, the opportunities that slipped through your fingers. These weren't failures. They were divine redirections. They were God saying, not yet, not here. I have something greater for you. The Lord will fulfill His purpose for me. Your steadfast love, O Lord, endures forever. Psalm 138:8. And that's the hard truth to embrace. It doesn't always feel fair. It doesn't always feel right in the moment. But the more you lean into your faith, the more you realize that what felt like waiting was really the time God needed to prepare you. And you were never alone in this. He was always there. Now, if you think back on the times when you questioned everything, when you felt you weren't strong enough, smart enough, or capable enough, you can also start to see the truth. Those were the moments when God was forging your resilience. Those were the times that pushed you further than you thought possible. They gave you the strength to keep moving even when the path seemed dark. And if you're starting to recognize that, even in your struggle, God's hand was always at work, you can simply pray, "Lord, I see your plan." Because once you start seeing that, everything begins to make sense in a way that felt impossible before. The power He has been growing inside you will become undeniable. Now imagine for a moment what it feels like to finally understand that all the moments of struggle, all the isolation, and all the times you felt out of place were part of God's plan for you. You were being shaped, not just for the next step, but for a calling much greater than you ever realized. The trials you faced weren't meant to break you. They were meant to reveal the depth of the resilience He placed within you. And here's the thing. The more you step into your true purpose, the more you start to realize that your journey is not just about you. It's about the people God has assigned you to reach. It's about the way your testimony can help others find their own path. Your difference is not a burden, it's a gift from God. And now more than ever, the world needs that gift. But there's still that voice that asks, is it enough? Am I really ready? It's easy to feel like the work is never done. And yes, there's always room to grow, but here's the truth. You've already done the hardest part. You've walked through the fire. You've made it through every season that seemed impossible. And what you might not see just yet is that those moments of testing were the moments God was molding you into exactly who He called you to be. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Philippians 4:13. There's a power in this moment. A shift that happens when you stop questioning God's process and start trusting it. When you stop trying to force something into existence and begin to rest in His timing. The answers you've been searching for are already written in His plan for your life. And once you start walking in that truth, things start to happen in ways you never expected. Opportunities you didn't think were possible begin to show up. People who understand your journey start to enter your life. And what once seemed like confusion becomes the foundation for your calling. As you continue on this journey, you'll begin to notice something important, something that was always there but that you couldn't see until now. Every experience, every person who came and went, every moment that seemed to tear you apart, all of it was marking your path, showing you where God was leading you, teaching you to trust Him even when the way forward seemed unclear. You're not behind. You're not late. You're right where God needs you to be. This realization might not come all at once. It might take time to fully settle in. But as you begin to embrace it, you'll notice that the way you respond to challenges changes. Every setback becomes an opportunity to trust God more deeply. Every struggle becomes a chance to strengthen your faith. And every relationship starts to make sense as part of His greater design. Because now you're not just going through life. You're being shaped by God for something only you can do. And as you allow yourself to accept that, things begin to flow more naturally. You stop fighting for control and you start aligning yourself with His will. The resistance begins to fade, and instead of pushing against the current, you begin to move with the Holy Spirit. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to Him, and He will make your paths straight. Proverbs 3:5-6. This is where real transformation happens. When you stop resisting what God is doing, and you start stepping fully into who He always called you to be. And the moment that happens, everything changes. The things that once felt like roadblocks, the moments that made you question your worth and your place in this world, were never meant to break you. They were meant to push you closer to God. And that truth is that the unique qualities He placed in you are the exact things that make you invaluable to His kingdom. The world doesn't need more people who fit in perfectly. It needs people who walk in their God-given purpose, who don't follow the usual script, because that's how His light breaks through. There's an undeniable power in owning the identity God gave you. And the moment you step into that, things around you start to shift. The doors that seemed closed before, they start to open. The life that once felt uncertain, it begins to unfold according to His perfect plan. And the beauty of it all? This is just the beginning. The journey you've been on, the one that has made you feel like an outsider at times, is leading you to the place where your God-given purpose will become crystal clear. The path you've walked has prepared you for something greater than you ever imagined. And now, it's time to walk fully into that. And as you begin to fully step into who God always meant you to be, something incredible starts to happen. The weight of the world that once seemed to be on your shoulders begins to lift. Not because the challenges disappear, but because you no longer carry them alone. You cast them at His feet. Cast all your anxiety on Him because He cares for you. 1 Peter 5:7. You stop seeing the obstacles as things that are happening to you and start seeing them as things God is working through. They're not roadblocks anymore. They're stepping stones He has placed on the path to the life He destined for you. You start to see how all those moments of feeling different, of struggling to fit in, were just preparing you to stand strong in the uniqueness God created. They were shaping you for a purpose that doesn't need anyone's approval to exist. It was God-given. And the more you embrace it, the more you realize that it's the very thing that will set you apart, that will help you make the impact only you can make. This isn't about waiting for something to happen. This is about becoming the person God already sees when He looks at you. The things you've been waiting for, the doors you've been praying would open, they are ready to meet you, but only if you step fully into the version of yourself that has been shaped by everything you've been through. Because the same God who formed you before the foundation of the world is the same God who has been with you in every valley, every waiting room, every dark night of the soul. And the same God who started this story and will finish it, no matter how long it takes.